This is a Stokke Xplory, and today we're going to be talking about various sound issues that can occur with the stroller and how to fix them. So just as a general starter on sound, sound occurs in strollers, creaking and squeaking sounds, when you have any two parts that are not tightly put together any longer, be it rivets that have loosened or screws that have loosened, and you also don't have lubrication between those parts. So anytime with any stroller that you have creaking and squeaking issues, it's a matter of finding which areas are too loose, opening them up, lubricating them properly, and screwing them in tightly again. So the common areas you'll find sound issues with this stroller, I find, is the top end, it's the handle. If it has been used for several years and hasn't been maintained properly, so you might need to open up this system in order to put in some more lubrication. Generally on this stroller, there's a lot of plastic, there's a lot of metal as well, but the plastic and metal are all worked in well together. So you're not going to necessarily need to use WD-40 unless you're just doing a quick spray in order to oil up your stroller. Then WD-40 is fine because it likes to run down. It's easy to run down inside the various mechanisms. But if you're having sound issues, it probably won't be enough to just use WD-40. You'll need to unscrew the stroller, in which case we recommend you use food industry grease because it's a thicker grease, it'll hold longer, and you can put it on all the parts. So again, in the example of the handle, you would take apart the handle assembly. You would start that here, where there are a couple of screws here and here, and you can pull it apart. Just pay attention to how the thing comes apart so you can put it back together. Also a screw on the back end. This will allow you to eventually remove both sides of the handle and get inside. And then you can grease it all up with some food industry grease and put it all back together. In general, otherwise, when you have mechanisms that you don't want to fully open up, but you want to see if you can eliminate the sound, with this stroller I recommend using a silicone spray, again because there is so much plastic and metal connections within the stroller itself. So if you're having issues with the handle, disassemble it, use food industry grease, and put it back together. If your issues are a little bit further down, you can unscrew the two screws here, and then generally you'll want to use the silicone spray, spraying down inside here to try to get it into the inner parts of the shaft. There are multiple segments of shaft within each other that all line up inside this stroller. So get some silicone lubricant down inside, and then you can use some of the food industry grease at the top in case you're having issues with this cap rubbing against the rest and causing these sound issues. Same goes down below here. This is actually quite a complicated mechanism to open up, but if your main noise issues are a squeaking that have to do with this part moving back and forth here, there's 8 screws that line back in here, which you will see after you remove the back end through this screw. You could potentially unscrew these a bit so that you can work it out a bit and then spray some silicone spray in and then tighten them as much as possible again. Again, in here would be also a matter of silicone spray. The other sort of noise that you might get on your stroller in relation to the back wheels is kind of like a rattling sound on one or both of the back wheels. And what this basically means is that the brake system is not fully coming off of the brake components on the back side of the wheel. In this case, what you're going to need to do is to oil out the brake system. So you can take off the wheel, turn on its side, and spray in here. This is one of the areas where there actually is quite a bit of metal, so WD-40 would be a good idea. Spray it in completely on its side so that the oil can run down through the channel into the other side of the brake system, and do it on both sides. And if this isn't quite enough for it, then you can unscrew these screws here and take off the cap, and then you can use a thicker grease on the various components inside, which will cause them to work a bit better together. These are also screws and so on that can loosen a little bit. So if the system isn't working properly, it could be that the screws here or underneath have loosened and the components aren't aligning as properly as they should in relation to the functioning of the brakes. In the front wheel area, the noises you might hear would have to do with like a rattling sound as you're wheeling the stroller, and this is generally an indication that you have problems with the ball bearings on your stroller, in which case you'd have to either replace the ball bearings here in this wheel, because it would most likely be that, such that the wheel is rattling against the fork. Or you can replace the entire wheel, and Stokke will actually sell the entire wheel as a kit, a pair of wheels, and then you'd have to replace these. We're going to do a video in the future where we show how to do this. It's a matter of removing quite a few screws under the bottom plate, here, and so on, and actually in the wells of the wheels as well. But then you can remove the entire wheels, and you can prevent any sort of noises that occur in that area. So those are the general areas that you might have noise issues with the chassis of a Stokke Xplory, and some tips on how to fix them. We hope this video has been helpful. If it has been, we ask that you subscribe, as it helps us to continue making videos in the future. Thank you.